We need to talk about the Ferrari strategy in Silverstone, and I have taken a couple days to gather myself, to review the tape, and I've turned off my air conditioner to record this video, which is how you know it's serious. So let's just dive into it. I'm gonna start with Fred's comments after the race because that really cuts to the heart of what I think the real issue is here. I mean, obviously the blunders are an issue, but they've been an issue for the last 4 races. To me, it's, well, we'll get into it, but the blatant denial of any screw up on the team's part is just not helpful or productive for not making these screw ups in the future. I'm gonna put them on the screen, but the first one is translated and it's from Motorsport Italia. Fred was asked to explain the strategy they chose for Charles, and he said, after the race, it's certainly easier to do the strategies. We gave the same information to our drivers at the same time, but our drivers were in different situations. Carlos was struggling with Verstappen, and at that juncture, he was faster than he was, so he was copying Max's race. Charles, the first stint, had spent it all behind Stroll and was 10 seconds back. And that pushes the team and Charles to make an aggressive decision. In the lap where Charles came back, Hamilton and Russell ended up out in turn 1. We thought it might work, but it didn't go that way. Sorry, I'm so bad at reading things out loud. This one is from the race, and he said, we are giving them information and we are proposing the call. The fact is that at one stage you have to pit and they have to do the last call, meaning the driver. On this situation, and I discussed it with Charles, for sure we can be disappointed when you see the result at the end. But first, it's clear that it was not the right call or the right decision, but I would say that it's motivated by the fact that at this stage, we are already 15 seconds behind. So the gap has now magically grown 5 seconds, just say, behind Carlos. It means that consciously or unconsciously, you know that the only way to come back and fight for a podium is to be a bit aggressive in that decision. It's not the right call because I think he would have finished P6, but collectively we took this decision. I don't want to say it's a good one because the reality is that it's not a good one, but I'm not upset with this because if you have a look, the same lap, Hamilton went wide in turn 1, Russell went wide in turn 1, and another car went wide in turn 15. It was really on the edge to become a very good call, and when you are in this situation, to be with the group of leaders, you will never take this risk. You copy the others, and that's what Carlos did. I feel like the most obvious thing in those statements is that while they do say we took this decision jointly, he really is laying the blame squarely at Charles's feet. And this is a classic Ferrari comms strategy. They love to shift blame to the driver, and it is small in these individual instances. Like, it's really not the end of the world. But over time, these things add up. Charles makes mistakes. Charles can't get the strategy right, as if he's the one with the fucking weather. Should we get a radar installed in his fucking cockpit? He also is saying, well, we just give him the information. He made the decision to pit. And yes, Charles did make the decision to pit. However, he was doing that based on information, and we will go through this, but the information that he was given about the weather was not true. It simply did not come to pass. And I mean, that'll happen from time to time. Is it concerning that this also happened in Canada 2023 and had dire consequences for Charles? Yes, maybe not acknowledging that the weather was not forecasted correctly and saying, well, oh, it was almost a good call is part of the reason we keep making mistakes with the weather. But all of the other teams were given pretty much the same weather report, and Carlos Sainz, critically, was not given the same weather report that Charles was. And I'm not even going full tinfoil. You know I'm willing to get my tinfoil hat out, but I'm not even going full tinfoil hat here. It genuinely is just very odd and raises a lot of questions for me about how Ferrari is handling the analysis and distribution of the radar and the weather information, because not only were they given different information, but Carlos and Charles literally were using completely separate codes or systems for communicating how heavy the rain was going to be. I transcribed the team radios from Carlos and Charles with timestamps from the exact same period right before they pitted. I'm going to put that full screen so you guys can make your own analysis, but I'm just going to run through the first things that stuck out to me. Again, it's very strange to me that they're using totally different classification systems to refer to the weather, but where those predictions start to diverge and be different is on lap 16, when Brian tells Charles that there might be other rain. Carlos is never told about the rain. And then on lap 18, Charles is told that this rain will last another 3 to 4 laps. Carlos is only told that it's going to last 2 to 3 laps. And additionally, Charles is told about heavy rain in the pit lane that is never relayed to Carlos. And Charles is told that the heavy rain is going to last 10 minutes. At that point, George was leading the race and he was lapping at about 1 minute 31 seconds 0.5, which means that's more than 6 laps of heavy rain. Like 10 minutes is roughly 6 laps. Obviously, they might slow down, so it might be like slightly less laps if it really does start to rain harder. But that is a significant diversion from Carlos, who is told 2 to 3 more laps. And then about 30 seconds after the message about 6 laps, aka 10 minutes, is relayed to Charles, Carlos is told 2 more laps like this. So that would be like 2 minutes. And once again, the heavy rain never communicated to him. So why is the weather prediction different? There's a very big difference between the rain's gonna stay like this for another 2 to 3 laps and there's heavy rain and it's gonna last 6 more laps. Like, that is fundamentally a different weather report. So like, are the race engineers being left to do this on their own? Is there one person who, I don't know where the change, and I don't need you to like flame Brian if it was him or the weather person or however it got messed up. My concern is that there's no acknowledgement on anyone's part but Charles that he was given incorrect information. Again, for this, I'm gonna keep bringing up Canada 2023. And it genuinely just like, it's giving Matthias, and I don't want that for you, Fred, but there have been a number of notable stumbles recently, and ultimately none of that even really matters because the development is the problem. Ferrari has fallen behind. It's a tale as old as time, but they brought this update. They had porpoising this weekend. Like, they can't work on further updates as other people are until they figure this out. And like, Fred was giving very vague answers. Now, I don't expect him to go into specifics about development, obviously, and I really do genuinely hope that they figure it out. But when things go wrong, Ferrari, I've seen it happen to every single driver who's ever driven for them, including fucking Kimi, who's the only driver. Whatever. We don't need to get into the history of Ferrari and the cyclical nature of what they do to the drivers. I just made this video because I feel like it's pretty clear to anyone who looks at these transcribed radios side by side, and I literally put the time in the F1 TV broadcast in case you want to go back and check my work. But it's very clear to any reasonable person that these are not the same weather reports that the 2 drivers are being given. And to just blatantly deny that fact is, and there are articles, and now that's the whole narrative. So I just wanted, listen, I wanted to set things straight. I wanted to lay out the facts. This video isn't even gonna be that long, but I had to bust out my actual camera to do it because I'm literally so incensed by Fred's post-race interviews. And I genuinely do think, I even said this about Mathieu Binotto, not to admit that I've ever defended him, but like every single team principal does this. Like, they physically cannot admit the team has ever made a mistake, and it's obviously just these ungrateful, shitty drivers when things go wrong, because like obviously it could never be the institution that's at fault. Like, there must be some greater pressure, and I don't know if that's coming from a person. I don't know if it's something that can be addressed. I don't know if it's cultural, but like, there must be other forces at play, because it's crazy that all of these adult men get up here and gaslight us like this. And obviously the team principal's role is to protect the team to a certain extent. Obviously I don't have a quantitative measure of this, but I just feel like when you look at a Toto or you look at a Horner, when they blatantly fuck up in some operational capacity, I just feel like they are much more, they admit it almost I mean, there's always some kerfuffle between driver and team, and tensions can grow, and it depends on like the relationship and everything, but 90% of the time, I feel like the 2 of them are willing to be like, yeah, like, that was a mistake, we have to look at why, like, blah, 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 we're gonna evaluate. Once again, I don't need you to like flame your employees, but it's just wild. Anyway, that's it. That's my rant. Buy a t-shirt if you'd like. I'm not wearing one in this video because it's far, far too hot. I'm gonna go turn my air conditioner back on.